So good morning and welcome everyone for today's module on soil science. This module is conducted in the premise of considering you, the future management of an agricultural plantation or farm, that you should be aware of the most valuable resource in your possession and how to utilize it to its full potential. So here your resource would be soil. So the learning objective of this module would be to familiarize yourself with the major soil groups and as well as the classification, and to understand the physical, chemical, and biological properties of each of your soil, and finally to bring all of this knowledge together and cultivate a good plantation or a farm. So the first question I might ask you is, what is soil? So the answer might differ from a person to person. So it depends on who you ask. So in our definition, soil science is a branch of science which focuses on the formation, classification, mapping, and as well as the properties of the soil and soil fertility and how to use and manage soil to your benefit. But how is soil formed? So it depends. So there's 5 factors which affect soil formation, with climate and time being the most important factor for you to consider. So can we manipulate it on our own? The answer is no. So soil formation is a slow process. So it starts from a disintegrating parent material, which gives birth to a smaller parent material, which gives birth to a medium for plant to grow, which gives birth organic matter, and so on and so forth. So how long does it take? Well, it depends on the climate itself. So climate acts on both the vegetation and the parent material, which is modified by the topography, and over time, it'll give birth to soil. Because in Ireland, vegetation does not vary markedly, so they do not affect the soil formation that much, which means climate is the main factor. So climatic factors such as rainfall and temperature affects soil formation here in Ireland. So the expansion of water molecules in the rock give cracks to the rock, which breaks the rocks down and give a smaller medium. And as I said earlier, it will give medium for the plants to grow and soil will be born. And this happens over time. So soil changes happen over hundreds of years. So majority of Irish soil formed since last ice age. And this is still considered a young soil compared to the soils in the continent of America and Africa. So next will be the properties of soil. So there are 3 major properties of soil, which is physical, chemical, and biological properties, where physical properties being the main constituents of any soil layer. So with 45% make up the soil. And physical properties refer to the type, size, and arrangement of soil particles, which give birth to the properties of soil. So the classification of soil can be determined using the NRSC USDA, which is based on the percentage of clay, silt, and sand in any soil. So if you have your soil sample, if you're able to determine the percentage of clay, silt, and sand, it will give exact classification of your soil. Next will be chemical properties. So chemical properties is the properties that you should look for to determine what type of crop can you grow on your soil. So basically, chemical properties is the ability of the soil to provide essential elements needed for the plant growth. For example, if you're able to determine the soil pH, you can determine what type of crop can you grow in your farm. And finally, the biological properties. It is as important as physical and chemical properties, even though this is the most vulnerable type of properties because you can't control what grows in your soil. So if you're able to determine the physical and chemical properties, you'll be able to determine the biological properties. And biological properties in turn determines the physical and chemical properties. So all I can say, it's really complicated. So it's really hard to determine something you're looking for it. So before we move on to the next part of the lecture, if everyone can join in the VWorks app with the ID given, and we can have a bit of quiz. Let's see. Okay, having problem here. Okay. Okay, should be able to see this. So everyone can see. So you can answer. You can choose the answer suitable for the question.
I pressed the wrong button. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we have learned the classification and the properties of soil, and let's bring everything together with the next question, which I'll be asking: the factors influencing fertility of your agricultural plantation soil. So you can choose multiple answers here. You can choose as many as you want. Okay, let's see. So basically, all the answers given, the options given is the correct answer. So you have to be aware of all these things if you want to manage your soil properties in your plantation properly. Okay, moving on. So what would be the important soil properties? So as you answered in the previous quiz, you must focus on the physical properties first, where it have to be well drained. And you must have a minimum 30% clay properties, because clay particles in your soil captures minerals and as well as water, which hydrates your crops better if you don't have clay. And for sand, it's good to have a certain percentage of sand because the aeration and the movement of water. We don't want a stagnant water in your plantation. So these are the two main properties you should focus on if you want to start a really good agricultural farm. Next will be the chemical properties. So first of all, you can kind of modify the soil pH. So it depends on you put on lime, or you can put on a certain type of crops and organic matter which can reduce or increase your pH value of the soil. Because reduce and increasing of your pH value would retain certain levels of minerals, elements, trace elements that can help your plants to grow better. And finally, we do need organic matter because it's the food material for your biological organisms. So if you have everything in order, physical, chemical properties, which give birth to the biological properties, you'll have a good farm. And that's my promise to you. So with that said, thank you. So the conclusion would be, soil fertility is governed by a lot of factors. Some you can control, some you can't. But soil fertility also directly impacts your crop yield and quality. So the main factor you should focus on, the takeaway message that you should focus on is that if you're able to determine and classify your soil, then you can modify it to your benefit. So it's crucial to investigate the soil properties of the land that you're trying to work on. With that being said, thank you.